Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much. We appreciate you being here. Speakers, when you come up, you need to be close to the mic. Otherwise, I'll get hollered at. We do appreciate you being here. Thankfully, crime is not rampant here in Meadows Place. So when we see it in our city, we get a little upset and sometimes a little afraid. Particularly when it's a crime as heinous as kidnapping or human trafficking. That's why the City of Meadows Place decided to host a discussion focused on human trafficking and asked Fort Bend County District Attorney Brian Middleton to head this discussion. Mr. Middleton was the prosecutor, for those that don't know, here in Meadows Place for years and did a great job for us, and we were grateful and hated to see him go. However, we found a pretty good replacement. But he quickly agreed to come and visit with us and share the many significant changes in this area that's taken place since he took office. This has been a focus project for the DA's office, and we're going to hear a little bit about that tonight. We're also going to learn what we as neighbors can do to help stem the tide of human trafficking, kidnapping, and involuntary servitude. Rick and I were talking, Councilman Stagley and I were talking about a little bit about it earlier, and it is significant, and it is running rampant in parts of the city of Houston in particular, which is one of the worst areas in the world for human trafficking. But before I turn this over to Brian, I want to encourage everyone to participate in National Night Out Texas right here in Meadows Place on October 3rd. It's designed to help neighbors get to know neighbors and get to know their community and get to know their city council and the police officers in particular. So please participate in our National Night Out program. More on that in a week or two. Again, thank you all for coming and watching online. And Brian, I'm going to turn this over to you. One of us knows what we're doing.
Okay, great. First thing I got to say is that y'all moved on up. When I was here, it wasn't so nice. So I walked in, I was like, wow, okay. As the mayor said, I would have to look at my resume to tell you how many years I was here. It was a long time as your prosecutor. And when I was running for office, I had a discussion, and I'm sure the mayor's heard me say this publicly, but I had a discussion with Mayor Jessup when I was running. He said, if you get elected, I want you to do something about human trafficking. And so he was one of the people, and he introduced me to some faith leaders who were pressing for me, if elected, to do something about human trafficking. So with that charge, when I was elected, I immediately began to work on it. And we had our first Operation Freedom. And Dave, you remember how many people were arrested on that first operation? Yeah. So right off the bat, we were able to, in 3 weeks, arrest these people. And I guess the other thing you should know about these operations, they're expensive, they're time consuming. It takes a lot of preparation. And we had a collaboration with the Human Trafficking Rescue Alliance, which when I became DA, Lieutenant David Hall was a part of. And so in working collaboration with HATRA, we were able to put these operations together. And we still continue to do these operations, and I think we're up to 9 at this point. But we're constantly planning, constantly looking, constantly raising awareness. And, you know, I have members from my office here tonight. I already mentioned Lieutenant David Hall. He's our lead investigator for human trafficking. So he has a remote office where they plan and do human trafficking, law enforcement operations. And sitting next to him is Ashley Harkness, is one of the felony prosecutors from our office, who is also assigned to human trafficking. And they have a presentation they're going to present to you tonight. That's this PowerPoint behind me. But we also have a lady that I know many people in here know, Rhonda Kirkendall, a dear friend of mine and somebody else who I met when I was elected, and just like Mayor came to me and asked me to do something about human trafficking. And I will let her tell you her story. But she is the chairwoman of our task force that we have, and her responsibility is to work with our office, but also to be the liaison between us and the community. She goes out and she lobbies legislature, and she also works with different municipalities on organizing and awareness campaigns and different ordinances. So she's vital to all our operations, and I'm lucky to have her a part of our office. And the biggest thing is she doesn't get $1 for the stuff that she does. She's a volunteer, and her husband sitting next to her, Tommy Kirkendall, is laughing. I don't know how much of that is friendly or not, but you know, and the thing about Tommy is the former mayor for the city of Fulshear. So I was also a prosecutor in Fulshear at the time he was mayor. So a lot of connections. But one thing I want to say about Meadows Place is that, you know, I know lately Fulshear and Sugar Land have got notoriety for being safest or safer communities in the nation. But, you know, everybody talks about Meadows, and you know why, right? There's a cop on every corner, you know. So it continues to be one of the safest places, because I can tell you have a greater, stronger police presence than you do in any other community in Fort Bend. And having worked here and seen the work that they do and how vigilant they are, you know, it was my job to sit here and look at these videos over and over again. So I knew people's personalities, their tendencies and whatnot. But your officers work very hard. They're very proud to work in this community, and they go out and they do enforcement, and not afraid to do it. I mean, they will put themselves in harm's way to protect you, and with pride. Now, as the district attorney, I get to see the cases when they come in as well. So you should feel safe. You should feel proud of your law enforcement and know that they're doing everything that they can. Unfortunately, in law enforcement, most of what we do is reactive, right? A crime is occurred, and we get dispatched, and we go out and we deal with it. Well, when we do these operations, we're being proactive. And so we are trying to anticipate and trying to find people and target people who will commit crimes. And so that's the proactive aspect of it. And I'm proud to say that we work with the city of Meadows, and we've done operations with them. And it's probably still on the city's social media page, but there was a press conference and an operation that we had done in conjunction with the city of Meadows Place Police Department. So we work very collaborative, but I just want you to know, I mean, Meadows will always have a place in my heart, having worked here for so long and having so many friends here. But I'm still your district attorney. More responsibility than I had when I was your municipal prosecutor, but I am still available. If you have any questions or concerns, don't hesitate to reach out to me or my staff. So without any further ado, I'm going to ask Ashley and Lieutenant Hall to step up and make this presentation.
Good evening. I'm Ashley Harkness. So I'm one of the two felony prosecutors that handle most of the trafficking cases. It's me and Craig Priestmeyer. Mark Hanna is our boss. But this is a presentation that we have that kind of goes over what the trafficking laws are, what they're based in, and kind of explains them so you understand. So when we talk about human trafficking, we call trafficking an umbrella offense, meaning that we have trafficking of persons is a law that we have in our Texas Penal Code, but that also is going to include other offenses like prostitution, solicitation of prostitution, promotion of prostitution, compelling sexual performance of a child, and so on. So there's a lot of other offenses that we see within the trafficking world. Y'all see the movie Taken? Liam Neeson, we all know that speech. You've taken my daughter, I don't know who you are. And that is trafficking, that kind of international syndicate that takes someone and takes them across the country. But when we talk about human trafficking within Fort Bend County, that's not what we're seeing. What we're seeing is people posting sex ads online and then people responding to them. It could be happening in hotels, and not just your seedy hotels. There's places like the Post Oak in Houston, and I know it has just as much trafficking as the seedier places you'll see up and down 59. It can be happening in massage parlors. We did a big operation in 2021 and cracked down on, we did search warrants on 10 or 11 massage parlors within Fort Bend County.
All of Fort Bend County. We try to hit every area in Fort Bend County.
And it's happening inside people's homes that you may just not see it. We got Bissonnet up there. Bissonnet has actually had some luck in shutting it down a little bit, but that just means it's going to move other places. Bissonnet, just to kind of talk about it, that's what we call open air prostitution. It's going to be like what you saw in Pretty Woman, someone walking the street and they get picked up. And we're seeing it move away from that. That exists, but we're seeing it happening online. And in Fort Bend County, that's what we try to focus on. Okay, so these are some important definitions. If y'all have any questions at any time, stop me, let me know. So traffic, what that actually means, we're talking about what trafficking of persons is to transport, entice, recruit, harbor, provide, or otherwise obtain another person by any means. So I just put some kind of examples. It can mean driving someone. So maybe you have someone who's a pimp or a trafficker, lives in Fort Bend County, and they have someone, a victim that's working for them, or not working, but forced to do labor for them, and they're going to drive them up to Harris County to Bissonnet and then bring them back and forth. That's trafficking in Fort Bend County. Enticing, you see that online. People going on Instagram, Facebook, sending out messages, the same with recruit. That's just kind of how they're getting their victims. Harboring, giving them a place to stay, paying for a hotel room, provide for maybe things they need, they're buying for them. When we talk about trafficking, there's a big difference. 17 is the age of consent in Texas, but for trafficking, we consider a minor anyone under 18. So just because you're 17 doesn't mean you're going to be treated like an adult within the trafficking realm. If you are 17 or under, we consider you a minor under the law. For a minor, it's trafficking by any means. We don't have to prove this other stuff. For adult, we have to prove that the trafficking was done through force, fraud, and coercion. So it's a little bit extra. If it's a minor, it means that they're trafficked by any means. It could just be you're the person that drives a 14-year-old to and from somewhere. You're going to be held to the same standard as maybe the big trafficker who's doing something more violent to them.
That's for trafficking. That's
Yes.
for the trafficking offense. If the pimps are in any way profiting off of a girl prostituting, then there's offenses against that. She's talking about trafficking, which is the top tier, punishment phase for it. But other than that, even if they are, most of the people we run across, they are not being forced. They are brainwashed and they are coerced, and they think that it's only for a short time. We're going to just save up enough money. So he told me we're going to get an apartment or whatever the circumstances are. The girls are kind of always looking for a way out. The guys are never going to let them out. They're continuously going to keep making that money because honestly, the girls make about $1,000 a day. That's what they're required. Sometimes more, sometimes a little less, but they have quotas daily, 7 days a week. And these guys, they'll get Ubers for them. We do our ops, and if they participate in any way, setting up the ads, getting them rides, taking them to and from, or buying them a room or renting them a room, then there's different charges. That's going to be, promotion of prostitution, and there's several different charges we have. What we're talking about right now is trafficking, where they're actually forcing the adults or participating in the minors doing it.
So we kind of break down. So when we talk about trafficking, this is what we have to prove, that the adult was forced, fraud, or coerced to commit one of these crimes. So just base prostitution or promotion and so on. And within that offense, we have these other offenses. So David mentioned promotion of prostitution. That's different than trafficking. And I know it's confusing. It took me a little bit of time to figure this out. I don't expect you to learn it all. I just want to explain some of it. So promotion of prostitution, like David said, you could be the person who sets up ads online, or you're the person who arranges for, call them a date or John, to come pick up. When we say girl, it can be a boy too, but we typically see young women, young girls as the primary victims. You arrange for the date, or you have some kind of agreement I'll drive you to and from the date, but I want 50% of the cut for driving you. That's all promotion. You're kind of within that. Online promotion is what it sounds like. It's the same thing, but it's happening online. Aggravated promotion, it's unlike other aggravated offenses. When we talk about an aggravated assault, aggravated kidnapping, you're thinking of a weapon, some kind of bodily injury. In trafficking, aggravated promotion means that you're doing it to more than 2 people. So you have 3 or more victims who are, quote unquote, working for you. Compelling prostitution is a totally different offense than trafficking of persons, but it's essentially the exact same thing. Just the Texas legislature finds these offenses so important to prosecute that they've kind of crafted different ways for us to prosecute. And compelling is essentially the same thing as trafficking. And then for minors, it's like David talked about, we just take out the force, fraud, and coercion, and you make a minor a victim of any one of these offenses. And because they're a minor, we also have sexual assault of a child, continuous sexual abuse, indecency, and so on. Do you have any questions so far on any of this? And then I put up here, and I'm not going to go through all of it, but these are the different degrees that each of these offenses hold. The big one that's changed that probably a lot of you know is that prostitution, prior to September 1st of 2021, if you were a sex buyer, so if you're the person going out and buying sex, it was only a Class A misdemeanor if it was your first time. Now it's a state jail felony. So when you see these operations that David does, and we've arrested 20 guys for buying sex, all of them are charged with a state jail felony for your first time offense. If you're the sex seller, it's still just a Class B misdemeanor. And the other interesting thing about these offenses is that you can be charged with all of them. If you were trafficking a minor, if you were forcing a minor, let's say you kept them at your house in Fort Bend, and then you would set up online ads for people buying sex and take them to a hotel in Fort Bend County. We could charge you with promotion of prostitution, trafficking of persons, and compelling prostitution. We could get convictions on all 3, and then we could ask a judge to stack each one of those punishments. That's how serious the legislature takes these offenses. Yes. Oop, I don't know how to go back. But most of those are felonies.
Can we go back one
Can we go
screen?
back one slide? Sorry. I don't know how to do it on the mouse.
No,
Yeah.
We can go from there. Yeah.
So I think, everything on here is a felony except for sex buyers. And that's going to be a misdemeanor. And for, not sex buyers, sex sellers.
Yes, sellers.
And we're really trying for sex sellers to offer them resources, offer them other ways out than a conviction. We're not trying to convict people of selling sex. We understand that the nature of this offense is that there's somebody who needs some help. And so we're really pushing services and alternative ways. And if they are a victim of any of these crimes, then that's a defense, and we don't charge them at all.
And very few of these girls are out on their own. I mean, there are some, but if they are out on their own now, they didn't get started by being on their own. They were brought into it in a different lifestyle, and now they feel trapped in doing it. But very few of these girls out there at all are on their own. They all have pimps, and the pimps have several girls. They're always looking for more girls every day. They're sending out messages and just trying to look for more girls every day.
And so we really focus on online human trafficking. And so we put this up there because we talk about that these are really the tools of the trade. If you have a laptop, if you have a phone, a computer, if you have access to the internet, anyone who has that could potentially post advertisements for sex or buy sex. It's out there. You may have heard of Backpage. The FBI shut that down several years ago. But once you shut that down, it just goes out. There's so many other sites you can go to now to find sex. You can see it on Craigslist, anywhere. I think people even do it on Tinder. But these apps that we have up here, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Snapchat, all of these are ones we're seeing it. We do search warrants for phones and social media. Every single one of the ones that we have up here, we have seen some type of trafficking or promotion of prostitution happening. Anyone know what that lock symbol is? OnlyFans. OnlyFans. OnlyFans, you may have seen it in the news. It is a place you can go to post videos or photos and then sell them. It's primarily used for sex videos, sex selling. and we see traffickers use it kind of as a supplemental income. You're not ready for the streets yet, but why don't we take some videos and start selling that on OnlyFans? As we start going through, I have pulled out some snippets of social media or closed cases we have that are actual kind of pimps language or people who are advertising sex. So it's going to get a little crude. I'm just letting you know. We put up there the real language that they use, so you're going to see it, and we're going to explain some of it.
Yeah, all those, everything that was on there a while ago, that slide before, that's how they recruit their victims. And why they don't text on phones to the victims or to the girls. They use Instagram. So much Instagram and Facebook. They'll message through those apps. So that's how we make a lot of our cases, is through the messages between them two. And that way, because not all the girls, when we recover them, they're not always cooperative. A lot of them don't want to leave the lifestyle. They want to be where they're at right now. Next month, it'll be a different story, or next week, it could be a different story. So they're not all cooperative. So that doesn't mean if they tell us, no, I don't have a pimp. No, I'm doing this on my own. No, I just did this. We don't stop there. Their phones come with us. All their stuff comes with us. They might not, but then we'll do search warrants and we'll start going through the phones and looking for who she's talking to. And that's how we can build our cases off of that.
A lot of times the victims in these cases are very similar to what we might think of victims in family violence. That victim may not always be ready to testify against or even prosecute, or even have the idea that they're a victim for themselves. They might think, I'm not a victim, I'm not doing anything, or that he's not doing anything to me, I'm not a victim.
He's not forcing me.
And we don't want to wait until they're ready. Our whole idea is that we're ready to prosecute now, and so we're building our cases, like David said, with search warrants. This is an example. This was somewhere, I think, in Stafford. We had a girl who actually outcried about someone who was her pimp, that he was pimping not only her, but another woman. They were staying at a hotel up on 59. We went out there and arrested him. When we brought in the other girl to talk to her, she didn't want to cooperate. He's not doing anything wrong with me. I do this on my own. I keep all my own money. He does nothing.
He had a separate room, too.
Yeah,
they don't stay with them. They separate rooms from themselves, so they try to keep that distance.
But we did a search warrant on her phone, this uncooperative victim, and what we found, I don't know if you can read it, but on her Apple Pay, we saw where money was coming in from what we labeled a John, or a sex buyer, and then she would turn around and send that money to her trafficker. So money comes in from someone buying sex, and then the money goes right to the trafficker. And we could see that because we were able to do the search warrants. We see it through the Cash App, Venmo, Apple Pay, Google Pay. If you can send money, it's being used to buy and sell sex in some way. You read them.
20, 100, 100, 20, 20, 100. And the 20, and I'll explain that in a second. 20, 20, 20, 150.
Oh, you might have to speak in here.
It's a lot of 20s and 100s and 150s. The 20s you see, from what we learned, is the girls will want a upfront payment before they come. That way that they say, make sure you're going to be there and we're not wasting our time getting there. So that's what a lot of the 20s are for. And then you see the payments of 100, 150. And when the Johns are talking to these girls, 90% of the time they're not talking to the girl at all. They're talking to the pimp. And he pretends like he is, and he sets it up. So he knows every detail as far as money-wise. So the girls, when they get paid, there's no, oh, he only gave me 100, it was 150. He knows everything. All their money goes straight to him. Every penny they get goes straight to him. And he'll decide what she eats and where she stays and where they're going to be that night, if she makes enough money for him that day. So all the money goes to the pimps. Yes. Open what?
Open for
we have not seen that correlation as far as trafficking. We have seen smuggling cases, and we have that kind of at the end to talk about as well.
Yeah.
For human trafficking, I'm not sure if we've seen any correlation in that. I think most of our cases we found kind of local girls who live in Fort Bend or maybe Harris County, Brazoria County, in this general area.
A lot of stuff you see on TV is just what that is. We don't see very many people that were taken from a different country, brought over here and forced to, and not saying it doesn't happen. Right here, what we deal with, we don't see that. No, and yeah, maybe so. I mean, we work a lot in Houston. I work in Houston much as I work in here because we work back and forth. I have never seen somebody that was taken from a different country, forced in doing this. Not saying it doesn't happen, by no means, but we don't deal with that here too much. Usually when they're smuggled across, that's smuggling, they go and they pay, and that's a different situation. We're talking about trafficking, which is more sex trafficking and labor trafficking. Right.
So this one is kind of, we get to some language, and I kind of want to explain some of the stuff up there, and I'm not going to read all of these to you, but you'll see in that top left, it says only a P. A P, it might make sense to y'all with the pimp. We also see, I'm not sure, in the middle, we hear it's 16. So we hear traffickers refer to themselves as, I'm a P, I'm a 16. P for pimp, that makes sense. But 16, does anyone know what the 16th letter of the alphabet is? It's P. So it's just code, it's just slang. They'll say, this guy in the middle, he said, here looking to appreciate that good hoeing you got, true 16, come find out. This is a guy, we actually caught him, it's one of our cases. Not only does he refer to himself as 16 in messages to people, but he was actually caught out on Bissonnette. A Houston police officer who was working undercover as a sex seller was just walking the streets to see who would try to pick her up. Well, this guy actually approached her and said, I'm a 16. She didn't really understand what that meant, but he said, I'm a 16, are you a 304? She didn't know what 304 meant either. Y'all remember the old school calculators? You could write messages to your friend or pagers. You write 304 and turn it upside down, and it spells hoe. And so 304 we see all the time, 304 oath. So 16 and 304, not to scare you, not to say this is all the time, but we've noticed we see it a lot in social media handles. They'll use it to text each other. In the same way that people who are pimps or traffickers try to advertise themselves as living this big lifestyle, unfortunately some women or men, I guess, who are still in this world will advertise themselves as a 304. That's kind of an impressive thing about them. But this is all, these memes that we've taken are all from people that we know to be traffickers that they're posting up on their social media.
Like what I told you, all these girls, some of them, I mean, they don't want to be there, but they embrace the lifestyle for a while when they're in it. And they have oaths, and they have, I don't think they're not, they're forced. I mean, they are brainwashed, and no girl wants to be there. She don't choose that. But when she's in it, they embrace it as they're in it, and until they hit rock bottom. But so they have oaths, and they have their own slang too when they talk to people.
It's very much a grooming, like you were mentioning. These traffickers and pimps are not stupid. They know who to target. They know who to go after. They're looking for someone who perhaps doesn't have, they don't have a lot of money. They don't have a lot of support in their life. So when somebody reaches out and says something like, oh, you're beautiful, let me take you out. I had this idea. We can make so much money. You just got to do this one thing for a little bit of time, and then we're going to go off and live this life. But it's never just a little bit of time. It turns into what David talked about is quotas. You're not coming home tonight until you make $1,000. Or I'm not going to buy you food. I'm going to keep the door locked until you make $500 tonight. And it just kind of escalates. But I don't mean to scare or suggest that anyone who has this in their profile is a pimp or someone who's selling sex. But we do see it. It is a pattern. If you see it, just be aware. And so now I kind of wanted to talk about, and if you have questions, we can continue asking questions, but I do want to talk about smuggling of persons and kind of how it's different. I know what happened on that case. We're still working on it, and we cannot get into the facts. It's still very much an ongoing investigation. But smuggling of persons is very different than trafficking of persons. I've got all the different ways that we can prove smuggling, and I'll talk about which one we see the most often, but if you use some kind of vehicle to transport an individual with the intent to conceal them from the police or flee from a person the actor knows, the peace officer or special investigator, that's one way. What I put in bold is when we talk about smuggling, this is what we normally charge. It is encouraging or inducing a person to enter or remain in this country in violation of federal law by concealing, harboring, or shielding them from detection. And that's going to be how we see it, is we see that people go down to the border, and we see people crossing from the border from whatever country they've originated from. They'll cross the border, they get picked up, they're driven to some location, sometimes in Houston, sometimes it's south of Fort Bend County, and then somebody picks them up and brings them to Fort Bend County. They might just be traveling through Fort Bend on the way to another destination, or like we saw recently, they stop here and they're held here for a little while. But if you are encouraging someone to remain in the country who shouldn't be here, who's not a citizen and has no legal right to be here, that would be smuggling. And then there's a third way: you assist or guide or direct two or more individuals to enter or remain on agricultural land without the effective consent of the owner. That's probably something you're going to see closer to the border. We don't see that as often here. Yeah.
Thank you. Actually, you need one?
In a minute, but thank you. Then we've got continuous smuggling of persons. This is if you're doing it over a period of 10 or more days. And then operation of a stash house. I did want to throw this up here. This is if you are somebody who you're operating a stash house. You have a house that you're using or permitting another to use to commit or facilitate the commission of human smuggling, human trafficking, aggravated promotion of prostitution, or compelling prostitution, or you're renting or leasing that property. So that's the only offense that really ties them together. You can be operating a stash house, could be like a brothel, could be a stash house, or it could be if you're keeping people that you know are not supposed to be in the country in your house as well. Do y'all have any questions about the smuggling charges? Or anything you want to add?
No.
This is a felony. So the smuggling of persons, just the original one, that is going to be a third-degree felony. If you are doing it and you're doing it in a way that causes death or serious bodily injury to be likely, you're doing it for money of some kind, you're doing it with minors and a couple of other, then you bump up to a second degree. If you are doing it and somebody, while you're doing the smuggling, somebody is sexually assaulted or somebody dies or is seriously bodily injured, then you're talking about a first degree. It was in the news about a year and a half ago. There was somebody who was killed. I don't remember what city it was in now, but somebody was shot while they were being smuggled. It was right outside a fire station and a school.
Not too long ago, there was one right here at 59 in Bissonnette, a shootout with the street smuggling.
But we have
people were killed.
Yeah, we have somebody charged. We have 2 people charged currently with smuggling that caused death, and they're also charged with murder. Continuous smuggling of persons is also a felony. Operating a stash house is actually only a Class A misdemeanor, but you usually see that charged with a felony as well. We're going to talk about operations. You'll have a lot more to say. We put them in 2 different kind of categories. Reactive, it begins with the tip. And those are actually extremely important. Our proactive ones we do a lot of work on, but David, I think you probably respond to just as many reactive little
Correct.
tips.
Yeah, somebody calls and we get tips that, hey, this girl's being trafficked out of a hotel right here. There's a lot of hotels in this area. So we'll go up and find her ad and we'll call her and make a date and then set up on the hotel and go in and do a UC and make a date on her and find her pimp. So we recover her, one off, or the police department, a lot of them will come out here and make outcries. Then the police department will get a call and they'll call us and say, hey, this is what she's saying. And she's saying she was at this hotel, and then we'll go out there and start our investigation on that. So that's more reactive. They go make an outcry or somebody reports it.
And I would just say, I'm not encouraging anyone to harass their neighbors, but we do say this is kind of the nosy neighbor can help. We had a neighbor in Sugar Land who called in and just said, look, there's something funny happening. I see a lot of girls that are dressed very scantily coming in and out of this house at all times of the night. David started an investigation, and it actually led to a discovery of what you might call very high-end escorts. They were not people that you would see advertised on your typical pages. These are women who somebody had created specific websites for each woman. We did an undercover kind of sting with them, and this was way out of the different style.
States. It went all across the different states. And believe it or not, we worked a lot of cases here in Fort Bend County, Fulshire here, all over, where they, we're not talking about girls who are going to walk the street. We're talking about very sophisticated organizations who have girls all over, and they know what they're doing, and they're very organized.
But, trust your gut. If you see something that doesn't look right, let us know. You can reach out to 911, the human trafficking hotline, or you can reach out to our office and tell David. We are always happy to look into something. And then I'm going to let you kind of talk about the proactive operations we do.
Okay. So, yeah, we do a lot of, instead of waiting, because sometimes they'll come in a lot of proactive or a lot of reactive, but we don't sit around and wait. We're going to go out. We're going to find the girls. We're going to set up operations. And like Mr. Middleton was saying, we've been doing this since 2019 when we did our first operation, and, a lot of people had hesitations about if trafficking was happening in Fort Bend County. So we decided we're going to go to Cinco Ranch on Cinco Ranch right in the middle of it. We rented a hotel for a month and 3 weeks. We did an operation and arrested 60 different traffickers, and I can't tell you how many girls we recovered right off the top of my head, but we did it right in the heart of Fort Bend County where they said it wasn't happening, and we proved it otherwise. And since then, it's taken off, and we've really got going. We try to do a couple operations a year. We're always have something going or helping someone. If it ain't happening here, Montgomery County, Houston, so they all come out and help us, and we go and help them. Okay. So we did operation last year here in the Meadows Place. We actually rented a house here in the city, and we got online and we started looking for girls who were posting in Fort Bend County and Meadows Place and Stafford. We have different sites we can use, so if the girl, and they'll list all the cities they service, and we were, Stafford, Missouri City, Sugar Land, and we did it, it's been a year ago, so last September, and we had 16 recoveries, 15 females and 1 male recovered in that operation, and we arrested six pimps. Later we filed 10 additional charges because a lot of times they're going to come here by Uber. They're going to come by themselves. The pimp isn't going to drive them. When they do drive them, it's a bonus for us. With less investigation, less we got to do. We already have him in our. We already know who he is. He's already known. But the other charges is when we do our search warrants and everything. So last September we did this here in the Meadows Place, and this is what we recovered. And not saying they're in the city, living in the city, but they're advertising their services here and around this area. So that's who we target, people who are advertising that they're working in this area. And as well as y'all know how close we are to Bissonnette, which is the number one in the country for sex trafficking, 2 miles down the road probably as a crow flies or less. And, right now there's an initiative going on Bissonnette, so HPD has shut the streets down, every street around it at night. But we did an operation a couple months ago, and Stafford, and we've been noticing that when we do these online stuff, it's harder to get the girls. Well, since they shut Bissonnette down, they went online, and that operation we had to stop because we were getting so many and we were so overwhelmed. So we can do this every day of the week, and we're going to make arrest, and we're going to do it. So it's no end. There's a ton going on, and even worse than these now are these massage parlors popping up. They are everywhere, and we're working with the county attorney's office and to set protocols and set stuff. So that's just something we got to figure out how to get a handle on and how we are going to approach that scene, because that's just rampant everywhere. But yeah, we're going to be doing another one here pretty soon, I'm sure, and keep this area. Yeah, always.
Every day is a good day.
Yeah. There's different sites these girls post these ads on all over. So we go to different sites, and we have different techniques where we look at their ads, and they list phone numbers, and we just start sending messages. No, well, they're advertised what they're advertising on their line. And then we will call them and say, hey, are you free to meet and talk? And then when they come to us, or wherever, right now we're doing, if we have a house, then we give them our address and they'll come to us. And then from there, no case is made until they're at the house. And then it's exchange information. But don't get it wrong. When they text us, they are like, how long you want, how much money you're going to spend, and what do you want? It's no beating around the bush can do it.
No, I was just curious because I know there was some chatter There was some chatter on the internet when it happened as to, well, how was Meadows Place involved? And nobody, I think, got an answer about that. So it's just good to know how we were involved, because they were thinking we were involved kind of how we just were a few weeks ago. So,
No.
so that's nice to hear that.
Yeah. Well, we this area we found a nice Airbnb, worked with the police department, and then we just got online that was advertising in Stafford, Meadows Place, Sugarland, because they'll list all the cities. It's a Southeast Houston list of cities. And so we search through keywords, and that's how we determine our list, because there's hundreds of thousands of ads every day for the city of Houston. So we narrow that down to our area we're working. Now, when we go to Montgomery County or the Woodlands, we'll pick girls up there. We've been to Galveston. We'll choose girls that are advertising in that area where we're working, wherever we are. So we're in Fort Bend. We don't pull some, and not saying sometimes they do come from Pearland or something, but they're advertising here. We don't know where they are. It's where their ad is posted at, what area. So that's the ones we talk about. Oh, yes, that was us. Right, I got you.
So these people are what Lieutenant Hall is saying is that they're advertising their services for your area. And so that's the net that we're casting, is people that are targeting this area. And so we respond to their ads and get them to come out, and, we catch them for the crime. Some of what we do is investigative techniques, so we can't go into all the details of it. It's a lot more complicated than that, I can tell you. But I know your concern is like, was it my neighbor? I mean, these concerns kind of, did I pass by a brothel? Well, that's not the nature of the business so much anymore, is that they're using digital technology and they're mobile. And so they're looking for buyers, and that's another thing that we do with the John operations, is that we're targeting demand. If there's no demand, there's no supply. And so they, as workers, are targeting people where they think the demand is. And so how you stop it in your communities is that they will stop targeting Meadows if they know, hey, look, if you put an ad out in Meadows, you're going to get popped by David Hall. So that's how you stop the enforcement. You stop the criminal activity, is they know this is a hot area, I need to stay away from it. So that's the strategy that goes into it. But I think what everybody's saying, it's a joint effort. Policing and community policing involves working with the community, getting tips from the community. So if you see some irregular activity, if you see a house and it's got a whole lot of traffic to it, that's something that you need to call in. That may be a brothel, and it may involve human smuggling if you see strange activity. There are no communities that are immune from this type of activity. They don't discriminate. We've seen it in gated communities. We've seen it in low-income communities. They find a way to do what they do everywhere. And one of the problems is that there's a demand everywhere. And so I want to leave a little bit of time, because we have a very special person with us who's a part of our task, what we call it the human trafficking team. But she's the chairperson of it. Her name is Rhonda Kirkendall. And she has a very interesting story, but what she can offer for you is the perspective from victims and how this happens. They're enticed into this lifestyle, right? And then they're abused and exploited and casted back, right? And then that's where we have to deal with these damaged souls. And that's where a lot of faith leaders and organizations come in to help pick up the pieces. But I would ask Ms. Kirkendall to come up and just give us a presentation.
Thank you, D.A. Middleton. My name is Rhonda Kirkendall. I was trafficked out of Fort Bend County many, many years ago. We hear a lot about human trafficking today, But I can assure you trafficking has always been here. And although there's the advent of this social media, and that's where the majority of trafficking happens, traffickers act the same way they did when I was trafficked way back in 1981. I was 10 years old, and my parents were paid, and I was taken into Houston first from Fort Bend County. So there were trips where I would go back and forth from Fort Bend County into Houston. Eventually, as a 10-year-old, I was flown out of Intercontinental Airport out to Lubbock, where I would meet my trafficker. My trafficker has been convicted 4 times, 3 different states, twice in Texas. He is free today, and I have been dealing with this for literally decades. I can tell you this past May, I had to take a trip up to El Paso. My trafficker had his parole, he had a violation of his parole, and they allowed me to come into the El Paso jail and sit before him for about an hour and a half. Everybody in that room could speak except for me. I was not allowed to say a word. And so I'm telling you, the trauma of dealing with sexual abuse and trafficking in particular is a lifelong learning lesson. So no matter how much therapy, it still always comes back. And I do have a wonderful support group, including my husband. But I did want to talk to y'all a little bit about what you can do as a community, and we are a resource for you. You know, there is a difference between smuggling and trafficking. Smuggling is when a person voluntarily chooses to hire a smuggler, a coyote, and come across the border. Trafficking happens when a perpetrator uses force, fraud, or coercion to make a person engage in free labor or commercial sex. You always have to remember, though, with human trafficking, if that victim is under the age of 18, as I was, then that force, fraud, or coercion piece is not needed. So another way to say that is anytime you have a minor engaging in commercial sex, it is automatically sex trafficking. So when you look at these intersections between smuggling and human trafficking, sometimes smuggling can turn into trafficking. So you have a person that's brought over here and all of a sudden they're told, I have this large debt. Now you're going to have to go to work it off and you're indebted to them. Or they engage you in commercial sex. And when you look at this, and all of this has been discussed by the people that spoke before me, but when you look at this here locally, what you see smuggling turning into trafficking is within our illicit massage businesses. For a large percentage of these women that come across from Asian countries, they think they're coming here for a great job. And then they come here, their documents are taken away, they don't have access to language, and so they just feel trapped with nowhere to go. And so what are we supposed to do? Meadows Place was one of the first cities in the state of Texas to work on city ordinances to help curb some of that illicit massage businesses. So what can you do as a community? It really does take a village. You know, they've talked before, police can't be everywhere all the time. These operations are extremely expensive. They're very time consuming. And so you have to be the eyes and ears in your community. And there is something that's called bystander intervention where, and I do it myself, when you see something that doesn't look right, your first gut reaction is going to be, I don't have all the information. It can't be what I think it is. Somebody else is going to report it. By you reporting a suspicion, you're not saying it's taking place. You're just reporting, I saw something that makes me feel uneasy, so look into it. So I'm asking you, if you do see something in your community, go ahead and use the resources that you have to report that. And then we do have the Fort Bend County DA's Human Trafficking Community Awareness Team. I know that's a mouthful. We are also here to help. You know, if the city of Meadows Place would like to look at their city ordinance, that ordinance was done a long time ago. See if we can beef it up and make it stronger. That's something that our team is willing to do to work with you. And then we also have an awareness campaign called Speak Up. Speak Up, Sex Trafficking Talks in Fort Bend County. So if you want your greater community to learn more about it, have us out to a community event. And during that Speak Up event, you're going to hear Ashley again with Craig, the ADA, speak. You will have a CSAE advocate agency. CSAE stands for Commercially Sexually Exploited Youth. A CSAE advocate agency will come out and talk to you about what it's like grooming for our minors in the state of Texas. There was a study that was done back in 2016, and they found that in 2016, approximately 79,000 kids were being trafficked, sex trafficked, in the state of Texas. That is a number that's old now, 7 years, so we really don't know where we stand today. But I just want to reemphasize that we are here to be a resource for you and the community. One of the things that I loved most about D.A. Middleton is his commitment to combat sex trafficking. It went unaddressed for way too long, and so I'm honored to be just a small part of his team. And with that, I will open it up if anybody has any questions.
I appreciate the enforcement division's talking about it, but you guys are reactive. One of the things that we need in the community, not just reporting tips, is you talk about faith-based a little bit. Well, one of the things that I found on the street is some of the faith-based are the perpetrators, the traffickers, right? And those are the hardest ones to get out to the media. The media doesn't want to know. HPD doesn't want to know. You know, I go up and down West Tower a lot, and I see young girls being followed 10 feet, 20 feet away from somebody that's a trafficker. And I call the police, and I'm sitting there waiting for 30, 45, 50 minutes, and I don't get anybody. So what y'all, hopefully none of you are buying this stuff, right? And I see the pictures up there of the John speaking. One piece that I would like to say, and I'll shut up after that, is the familial. If you look at the laws of the state of Texas, 25-2, section 28, don't deal with it because they think it's incest in 28, 23 has to do with trafficking. One of the things I would like to do is partner with somebody to go into the legislatures that need to do the familial. 50 to 60% of young Hispanic women in the valley have familial incest. 50 to 60%. What a waste of human capital. If you don't think that's happening in Fort Bend, I have a place in Rosenberg. See it.
Right.
I have a place in Houston off the west side. See it. Thank you. I really appreciate you opening up. I wish I could get one of my survivors that's with me to talk about it. That's what y'all need to hear.
I want to take this opportunity. On to this first time I've ever heard you speak. Wow, you're pretty darn good. I also can't see as I seem like a phone. Also want to Jimmy, would you stand up? Jimmy lives here at City Meadows Place. He's one of those faith-based people that has connections through Lane Methodist, but also with a bunch of the other faith-based organizations, and has introduced us to an organization called The Landing, which is over there on Bissonnette. So if you want to get involved in this, contact Rhonda's group, or contact us. We'll put you in touch with Jimmy. That lady right there is getting involved and going up and getting a group to just go take lunches to these ladies that come in off of Bissonnette. So there's a lot of things to do that don't include putting yourself in danger for a lot of money, or put yourself at risk of getting known to those folks. It's just taking a pizza out there. There's a lot of things that can't happen. Again, Ron, thank you so much. I appreciate your testimony. And I'll shut down and I'll shut up now.
That one sounds fine in here, but it's not doing well for me.
One, I want to just talk to the gentleman in the back of the room real quick. I do have one paid job. I work as the anti-child trafficking consultant to Texas CASA. Those are our court-appointed special advocates that work with kids in the child welfare system. My job with Texas CASA was to create both a program guide and a volunteer guide for all of the CASA programs across the state of Texas to engage in anti-trafficking work. That will deal with familial trafficking. We are releasing the program guide on September 27th of this month.
Talked about CASA is that we have another division that deals with that, and it's the child abuse division, and that's where we prosecute those offenses, not under the same umbrella, but the same harm that's being created. And that's another one of my priorities is the protection of women and children. So that's probably a whole nother presentation, but point well taken. We need to protect children no matter where they are, whether it's in the family or with strangers. The other thing that I want to make abundantly clear is that this is Meadows, but we're Fort Bend County. This is a part of Fort Bend County, and we're working for you. And there are efforts, and David Hall and his team are working every day all over Fort Bend County, working with all different type of agencies. When we do these operations, it's not just the Fort Bend County DA's office. In collaboration, Meadows Place Police Department, FBI, HSI, all these different agencies working together. And also, we have faith-based organizations like the YMCA that provide support. So when we recover these victims, we have to take them and try to help to restore them. And that's where these faith-based organizations come in to help assist us. So when David puts these operations together, it's the complete umbrella. So they're ready when they recover a victim to immediately transfer them so they can start receiving services. And it takes the whole community working together to try to put an end to it. But one other thing you need to understand is that you always hear about those people. If Rhonda's testimony has not convinced you that it's not those people, it's our people. It could happen to anyone. And you look at these people that we've charged, every single race is reflected in there. And some of these people, you're right, sir, some of them were faith leaders in there. Some of these people are very wealthy. It does not discriminate. And we're out there, and we're serious about enforcing law, but we need your support. But we also want you to understand that, you know, I hear a whole lot of criticism about Houston and Harris County. I'm not going to join in that, but what I will do is praise my community and what we do and how vigilant we are and what our officers do. We're on it. So if something happens in Fort Bend County, it's never from a lack of effort or cooperation.
I just want to say thank you again, because that's the thing is people getting involved and stepping in. I am so thankful for what Fort Bend has been doing through law enforcement. And I know we already touched on it, but Fort Bend County works with the city, also works with FBI, works with, national. It is huge, but it also takes us. And I was hiding just in the back and not going to stand up until Mayor Jessup said that. But the thing is that I just want to encourage people, and with your task force that y'all have, the coalition that y'all have, and there's the Freedom Church Alliance, and there's others that are working in a bigger picture. And we all have differences, and there's different, why, but we all say this needs to be stopped, right? And so I just want to encourage, if there's anybody that does want to get involved, there's organizations that work with, there's even people that do phone calls that look at all of the ads and literally will call them and ask, can I pray with you? Can I help you? Are you wanting to do this? There's all different types of things. And law enforcement, correct me if I'm wrong, but y'all can only do so much because of what you can see, and you're limited with the number of people you have. I do preface that, though, is with doing it in conjunction with people that are in cooperation with law enforcement, so that we're not stepping out and doing something that causes harm, right? So I am saying that. But there are ways to get involved, and that's my thing, is I just encourage people to say, what can I do? Not something needs to be done, but what can I do? Because when we were talking, like when you were talking about familial, it was 2 or 3 years ago when I did a thing a presentation for the city of Meadows Place. We talked about, it definitely was for shock factor. I will admit that, but I put a whole bunch of pictures, like 9 pictures up. It's gone around forever. It was nothing I created. But it had a cheerleader, it had a parent, it had a business person, it had all these things. And the question was, which one is the trafficker? And the trick was every single one of them were, because it doesn't, there's not what we think stereotypically is not it. So I appreciate you saying when we see something, you're not calling somebody out, you're not going to be, you're not the one saying this is happening, but you're saying, hey, there may be something going on. Please check it out. So, okay, I'm just repeating. So,
if you do want to get involved also, there is a Facebook group. It's called Our Voice in Texas, and it goes over the work that's being done locally, the work that's being done to change legislation at the state level. And if you do not know about trafficking, there are some wonderful guides also that will walk you through learning more about trafficking. Another guide shows you all of our local nonprofits that are working in the human trafficking space that have been vetted also. The Landing is a fabulous organization. So,
where was that?
It's Our Voice in Texas.
Oh, okay, cool. I didn't realize that was there. I have several questions, so if there are other people that have them, I may need to stop at some point. Sure. Okay. Well, you just tell me if I'm not on track. How about that? You're on track. Okay. Get close. Yeah. I had a question about your success rates with prosecutions. What are your biggest sticky points where you guys have problems in prosecuting, and is there anything that we can do when we're collecting information or watching to help with that?
We've had a lot of success with prosecution. I would say that the hardest part is when we have victims who are not comfortable coming to testify yet, and we realize we can't make a certain element of the case without them. And I'm not sure there's anything you can do. It's just the nature of these cases, and sometimes someone's not ready to come forward or not ready to face their accuser, and we're left with what we have. But we do, I don't think that you guys need to be worried about the collection of evidence. David and his team do a great job of collecting search warrants, digital media. We're always trying to get more of that.
We anticipate that the girls, when it comes to trial, are not going to be available. Even if they're cooperative that night, a year from now, 6 months from now, we're running this now. They're gone again, somewhere else. It's hard to find. So we build our cases off what they say. Then we go back and we build it off of that, and so we don't need them. In other words, to prosecute. Sometimes we do, but we try to do it without knowing that when it comes to trial, they're not going to be available.
Okay. I had a question about ordinances. You'd mentioned that you guys were trying to update some of the ordinances around massage parlors and whatnot. Is there maybe the top 3 things that make it, like ordinances that make it easier for us to keep illegal massage parlors from operating?
I have a little genius in my pocket. His name is Tommy Kirkendall. He used to be the mayor of Fulshear for 6 years. So he's very, very familiar with city ordinances and city government. And on a Saturday night, we will be looking at a city's ordinances to figure out the best place to put in illicit massage business ordinance. That's what we do for fun. Every city is different. Some cities have conditional use permits. Some have special use permits. Richmond just did a very interesting thing with their illicit massage business, and they made it mainly city staff will be taking care of it, so it will not have to go through city council meetings and planning and zoning or anything like that. So every city is unique. If a city wants to enact one of these ordinances, then definitely contact us. We sit down with city staff and we figure out what's best for your city. So far, we have implemented these ordinances in Meadows Place here, Pearland, Richmond, Rosenberg, Fulshear. I know there's 7 of them. Anyways, there's 7 of them so far. So we're working our way through more the more populous cities.
Okay. The county attorney's office has recently drafted a county policy or a guideline for massage businesses.
This is my last question because I'll skip some of the others. Do you guys ever have, I know there's an organization called Demand Disruption where they'll come in and work alongside, yeah?
I don't know if Joe Madison is listening, but I forgot to respond to his email earlier this week. He is an ally. I'm extremely busy, y'all. And I was sitting here and I was like, is Joe coming? And I went back and I read his email. But yeah, Joe Madison runs an organization called Demand Disruption. Very good program, and he works with sex buyers, and he tries to reprogram them in terms of their thought process. And he has a lot of information on the different stages and how people go from watching pornography online to buying sex, and they get in, and Demand Disruption gets involved in some of these operations, and they engage the buyers, and they try to help them on their road to recovery and ending their addiction to sex. And so Joe Madison is a force in this area, and I wish he were here tonight. I got to tell you, I did something 4 weeks ago. I started going to the police academy, and so Joe, if you're listening, I'm sorry, I've been extremely busy because I go at nighttime and I work all day, so I am busy. And tonight, we did this tonight because I didn't have class tonight. So sorry, Joe, if you're listening. I wish you were here, but he is a part of what we do.
Can I just piggyback on that real quick? I think one of the things that he's said is, when these guys plea out and they're maybe going to go through some kind of course, that some of the stuff they're going through, they can kind of cheat through it, and he's wanted to sort of make it where the courses that they have to go through are more meaty and actually demand some accountability. And I don't know if we've looked at that, doing that specific. I don't know if you can even do that just within Fort Bend, but...
Yeah, we met with Joe, and we've discussed different options. In making that work, it takes a lot of different moving pieces. So that is something that we have explored and will continue to explore. But yeah, Joe is an ally and a friend of mine. So yeah, nothing negative to say about that.
So I think you can hear. So you can hear it. So I know I'm talking loud. Let me start talking. So my question is, when you go to report the human trafficking, is there a specific way that you do this? Because I have done it to our police department and to the human trafficking hotline and have gotten pushback. So is there a specific terminology of how, I call them like, I suspect that these people are being human trafficked, and you get pushback.
What kind of pushback do you?
Oh, are you sure? How you doing? What's going on? What do you think is happening there? Do you have proof? It's like...
Yeah, I don't know. I can't speak for the police department here, but if you call the tip line, they're going to ask you questions just so they'll provide information to us.
Right. Well, the tip line at this particular human trafficking was like, if you don't have, for sure, an address or this, or then, we can't help you. So that's why I'm asking. Yeah. Is there a specific way that can get the point across that...
Tell them what you see and what you know is all I can tell you. I don't know what tip line you're calling. I know that does Fort Bend still have goes to their dispatch?
The
tip line, there is a human trafficking, like a national tip line for human trafficking. I would suggest you call it the national tip line for human trafficking. That was the one?
Mm-hmm. That's why
what I think may be happening is that you've got to have enough information to act on. So if you see something, you want to have as much description as possible. If you got a plate, you got a time, you got physical description, addresses, that's something that's actionable. And then you've got to describe something that sounds like human trafficking, right? They get a lot of tips. He runs on a lot of those tips as well. So if it's something that's actionable, I can tell you, I can speak for him on this, is that he will act on it. I've called him in the middle of the night with information, and he's got right at it. They work 24/7, always on call, always working. But if we get the information that's actionable, you will get a response.
When it comes to us, we run them.
Pardon me? Yeah, okay. Probable cause is a legal standard, and it's a reasonable suspicion to believe that a crime has occurred. And so you got to articulate certain facts that would lead a reasonable person to believe that a crime has occurred. So in describing that, what would distinguish probable cause from non-probable cause is something that the conclusion could be not illegal activity. So if what you're describing could be a crime or it could be legal activity, that's not probable cause. What you're describing from a reasonable person standpoint has to be, I think they committed a crime.
Right, okay, and I get what you're saying with that, but also when you described earlier, if you see something suspicious, when you were saying this earlier, then that person doesn't really know that something's happening. They don't know for sure. So how would they articulate that so that they say, well, I just think something's not right?
I think when you call the tip line, they're not going to ask for probable cause. I think it's just trying to get the information of what you have and name or something that we can act on, right? I mean, location, name, phone number, or something. So I don't know what they said. We're not part of it. We don't go through the tip line. None of us handle the tip line. We're not. It's a national organization, but when it comes to us, it usually has some information, something we can follow up on. So maybe that's why I don't know the tip line, but it usually comes with something we can follow up on.
Yeah, and I'm concerned about that. And what I would say is if you have that problem, again, write us a letter. Put it in writing, send it to my office.
I'll call you personally.
Okay, call me. Call me.
No problem. But I just wanted to clarify that for anyone else who might call that, because you said if you see something suspicious, so they can report it as best as possible to you guys and not get it brushed away, because maybe they weren't articulating what they needed to get to the police department, and so that the communication is there. That's why I'm asking that.
And the other thing I would say is that when you follow up, or if you put it in writing, there may be patterns. Maybe you called one night and you had the same complaint that someone the next night did. So it's the repetitiveness that may cause action. So I would say don't stop just because you got frustrated a few times. Keep doing it. And your repetitiveness, like they say, the squeaky wheel gets the oil. So, and I'm sorry that you went through that. That's not the way the system was designed to work. But we are talking about human beings. So we always have to keep that in mind. But I respect your vigilance. It's appreciated. And I hope in the future you don't have that problem.
Just pointed out to me that the phone numbers we have up here, which are the human trafficking hotline, our office, CPS, that these are all being typed in the comments for the people who are streaming.
Yeah. You can always contact our office. That's our main number. You call him and tell him you got a human trafficking tip. He's going to get it.
Sort of following on reporting. How anonymous is a reporting? Because I think like maybe some people don't want to call or do any type of reporting because they're afraid that they're going to find out that it was them.
Completely anonymous.
Yeah. You don't want to give us your name. You just want to give information. That's fine, right? But you can also call Crime Stoppers if you have concerns about that. But contacting our office, we're not going to demand to know your name. If you give us information and you give us information we can act on, we will do that. And you just have to say, I want to remain anonymous.
Because I'm sure the name does appear on their phone nowadays. It's not like when you call police, they already know who's calling.
Well, I guess you got to have a little bit of faith in us. I mean, our goal is to arrest bad guys. Is not to harass people, good citizens who are trying to report crime. And so if you have concerns about your safety, you just need to say that. I mean, we're not going to. There's confidentiality involved in the process, and we will respect that, and even laws to protect that. So, and we do this every day. We get anonymous tips constantly, and that's how a lot of crimes get solved. We know there's a responsibility to protect people who provide tips, and we're prepared to do that. I mean, you see, he's got his gun on, right? So that's what we do for a living: is we serve and protect. So if you have those concerns, just voice them. We have caller IDs collecting that information, but I guarantee you, none of my employees are going to write your number down if you say you want to be anonymous.
It's not mainly for me personally. It's just maybe a question that other people have.
For the benefit of the
have concerns about.
For the public, to our viewers, to our listeners, yes, if you want to be anonymous, you will remain anonymous.
find that there's certain demographics that are predominant in the sex trafficking? Like, I mean, single-family girls, single-family boys, kind of a thing?
I would say what they all have in common is that they're vulnerable. You know, in order to be, I was going to use the word again, vulnerable to human traffickers, they're looking for young women who are going through some sort of crisis or some sort of need, and they're saying, hey, look, I can help you, right? And so women or girls who are vulnerable are more likely to be susceptible to human trafficking, and that crosses all socioeconomic levels. And so the biggest way to protect your children is to be there for them, be active in their lives and know what's going on in their personal lives, because if they aren't able to communicate with you, they may be communicating with a trafficker and they may get, you know, drawn into this lifestyle. So you just have to be vigilant and know if you're not talking to your child, someone else may. So, and that requires a great deal of compassion and patience when dealing with children. But always keep that in, and I'm a parent, I have 3 daughters. You have to keep that in the back of your mind. If I'm not taking the time with my children, someone else may take that time up.
May I add something to that also? There is a resource out there for parents. Street Grace is a local nonprofit here in the Houston area. They have a document that's called Keeping Kids Safe in the Digital Age, and it helps parents because a lot of times parents, what you want to do is you want to normalize having the conversations around healthy relationships, boundaries, sextortion. There is a direct intersection between sextortion and teen suicide. So if we understand what these issues are and we start talking to children at a very, very, very young age about this book helps walk you through it. So it's available online. It is free, no charge at all, and it gives you like a template for a parent to go through and use. Keeping kids safe in the digital age.
Kind of where I'm going at with here is the ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. It seems like we're doing whack-a-mole. You know, every time you bust someone here, they move over there, kind of a thing. And one of the things we've all learned in the last 3 or 4 years is supply chain issues stop everything. So where I'm going at with that is if there's a way to target the at-risk youth or the at-risk kids here, I mean, through advocacy and stuff like that, we could possibly turn the nozzle on the faucet a little bit to where they don't have what the product is that they're selling.
So one of the things that I was just talking to Ashley about just before the meeting started was a new project for the human trafficking team, and I don't have this approved yet, so I'm speaking out of turn, but it is to create what's called youth advisory boards within our school systems. So these are kids that are passionate about this topic, learning and teaching other kids. And so that's where you get into that grassroots effort where you see it. There is a program called Sentinels by Unbound Now, and Sentinels is based off of, back in the olden days when we had walled cities, a sentinel would be on the edge of the city looking out for it. These are to teach kids how to spot the red flags within their own schools, and not only to spot it, but what do you do if you see it? So we all have to have this it takes a village mentality. And I can tell you, yes, the most vulnerable kids are more susceptible to trafficking, but every child could be trafficked. And I didn't used to say that until I heard a story of a mom and a dad that lived in a gated community and their child was trafficked. So it can happen to anyone. The majority of kids are in at-risk communities.
Okay, so are we actually actively targeting these kids, the ones that are at risk? I mean, realize that most of them may not have a parent at home that's concerned that does talk to them. Is there a way, are there things in the works to where school counselors can identify these kids and to where they can possibly be educated there, to where they are aware of what pimps are going to do and how they're going to talk to them and coerce them into these things? That way we stifle the flow of them getting into the industry?
Yep. Our juvenile division has our juvenile thing. As girls come in, they have protocols in place where they speak with every girl, ask them if to determine if they're at risk or not, and they have programs. And the schools, we've tried to reach out to schools.
So we just had in Texas. In Texas, so what we had 2 sessions ago is you had an opportunity to go into schools and teach domestic violence, healthy relationships, human trafficking risk factors. And the Texas legislature came in and said, instead of, say we're going to teach human trafficking education, if a parent doesn't want their child to learn about that subject, they could opt them out of it. So that child would not be be taught that material. Now, in the state of Texas, you have to opt in. That means that no human trafficking education can happen in schools unless every single parent opts in. In essence, that's killed our opportunities to educate within the schools. So it is something that needs to change.
So that's probably something we need to write our legislators about to make it to where you have to opt out of it.
Amen. And I can tell you the bill was SB 9 2 legislative sessions ago in the second special legislative session. But if you do follow that group, Our Voice in Texas, we will be putting information there when it's time to act with the Texas legislature. In the House, on the Senate side, they make it a little more difficult. You've got to drive to Austin. But on the House side, you don't have to leave your home. You click on a link and write what you think about a bill. And so that's what we're trying to get our community to do as well.
Thank you very much.
Well, and speaking from just other organizations and stuff, and a lot of them, the ones you said, they're trying as well. And so, again, I'm speaking up saying it takes a loud enough voice, because our government officials and our police, our law enforcement can only do so much, but it's our voice as well. Street Grace actually has a council of high school students that they have, and there are other organizations, Unbound. I don't know if they still are, but they were able to work in several of the different school districts, like down in Missouri County and stuff. We're actually speaking to every bus driver and to teach the bus drivers the signs, the things to watch for. So there are organizations that are trying. It's just still not enough. We need to do more, but they are. I just want to say, Parks Youth Ranch. It's here in Fort Bend. It's a emergency shelter for homeless youth. But they have, like, United Against Human Trafficking come in and talk to the kids and help them, because we know that homeless youth or at-risk, abused homeless youth are going to be more at risk. So I'm just trying to answer that, yes, there's hope. We need to do more of it. And you're right, when we can change the legislation, that really helps to give us the ammunition. So.
Yeah, pay attention to what's going on in Austin. All of it is not good, just like Rhonda just indicated. And we're up there every session lobbying, but it pays to be informed. And to address your question about youth, during the pandemic, we lost a lot of protective factors, but kids weren't being supervised. Normally, a teacher would be in a position to notice something going on with a child and may contact a counselor or someone else to help, who will inquire and help that child. We lost a lot of that during the pandemic, and for years to come, we'll see the consequences of it. But this is my commercial. If you want to make a difference, investing in youth programming will be your surest way to protect these kids. They need safe environments. They need contact with adults who can be the eyes and ears and be on the lookout and know when a child is in crisis and be able to provide referrals for that child. So there have been multiple studies that show that it has an impact on crime. The more you spend on youth programs, your crime rate goes down. The more you spend on youth programs, human trafficking will go down. So it's an effort with each community to invest in their youth. And sometimes that means volunteering at your church and being part of youth programs. Sometimes that means your cities and your counties investing in summer programs and after school programs. But that's how we make a difference. We have a saying in my...
Tell them about your...
Okay. I founded a program called Exposed Excellence Youth Program. And the whole concept behind it is to provide safe environments for our kids, and at the same time providing mentorship and ability to express themselves through performing in visual arts. And so the whole point of that is to try to provide protective factors for our kids. And so that's the biggest thing that you can do, is invest in programs like that. It's sometimes donating, sometimes it's just being a part and being a volunteer. We have to provide these protective factors for our kids, and, we need to speak up and say something. So
hello. When it comes to, I know you want to know what is one thing you can do to help the youth. One of the things is I would really like to thank the mayor. I appreciate the fact that he actually got up, he took an interest in me, he went and spoke to me, he asked me, thank you for being here. He acknowledged the fact that I was here, and actually I am a survivor myself, and that's how it started it. My first sign of help for me was the fact that somebody came, said hello, showed me and took an interest in me, so that I knew that I could have a safe place to ask for help. So I really appreciate that just the fact of saying hi or just kind of letting somebody know I'm here, it really can make a huge difference.
you just heard it. That's your answer right there. Is how we as individuals interact with the people in our community. So just like she said, by just being kind, to someone else, you may save a life, because that may be that motivation for that child to speak up. We see it in child abuse. Usually we deal with delayed outcries because the pain is so intense. It takes a while before they can express it, right? So that kindness and that opportunity and that ear that you're providing for that child may make the difference. So there is an individual effort, and that's just be good people, and respect humanity. It goes a long way.
For those that don't know me, I'm Rick Stegler. I'm one of your city council members. There's been a lot of chatter on the Facebook page that the city knew about this house. It was reported, things like that. For me, I obviously did not know about this house for trafficking. There were reports on this house about cars that were not registered. And there were several citations issued for this house for unregistered vehicles. It is a big jump to go from unregistered vehicles to human trafficking. That's where the probable cause piece of this comes in. So if anybody says that they reported this house as human trafficking to anybody, I'd like to get a copy of how that was reported or something like that, so that we can follow up on what happened and why it happened. The city is waiting on an after-action review on this house. Obviously, we can't get a lot of the police details or the DA details. But we are going to look at what was reported to code enforcement, what was reported to council members, what was reported to staff, and just see what happened. Beyond that, when I got on council, we had one dispatcher 5 days a week. We cover about 66% of the dispatch hours now. After that, it rolls to Fort Bend County. We do know that we do have issues with Fort Bend County dispatch. We continue to work on them. We have regular meetings with the sheriff's office. If you do call and you get Fort Bend County dispatch, tell them no, Meadows is not a neighborhood. It's not an apartment complex. We are a city. Yes, you do dispatch for us. And ask them to send out one of our officers or have one of our officers contact you. We will get back to you. Just make sure that you let them know that you are in Meadows Place. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Oh, come this way.
Take that with you. Thank you very much. You too.
Thank you, Mayor.
Let's give them a big round.